Hello? Internet? Does this thing work? Delicious. Welcome, folks, to Sunday Live number 119. I will be joined in about, I think, something like 30 minutes by Jennifer Batten, old friend of mine. She was one of the very first people that I met in Los Angeles, actually, when I arrived here 30 some years ago. So it's gonna be fun. Can't wait to catch up with her. Always good to see her. I only see her at like NAMM now. I think she lives like up around like maybe Portland or something now. So she's not around these parts anymore. But my hands are slow. What do you guys do to warm up? Just getting warm for some reason. I don't know why. I got to do the show, so I can't really play. But to warm up, I usually do just the good old, that thing, and try and get my hands going. Or sometimes I'll do this. Where I do a hammer on between the, first and second finger, then the second and third, and then the third and fourth. Which is a thing I saw in a Vinnie Moore video back in like the 80s, and I still do that. And it seems to work pretty good to get the blood flowing in the left hand. Or sometimes, that thing. Or sometimes I'll do a trill. I think he did this too. Like that. And then drilling between your third and fourth finger. That's kind of hard. Like hammer on and a pull off. But that seems to kind of help. I don't know. Just get the hands working. And right now I'm playing through this is kind of a fun setup. I got one of those new Seymour Duncan Power Stage 200 power amps. I have no idea what the StreamYard audio is doing to this. It's just an amp in the room. So, but I'm reamping my PT15. So what I'm doing is taking out of the, direct out basically into a pedal, a tunable Eidolon, which is adding a little delay and reverb. And then into the power stage, and then out into that 412 back there at really low volume. And it's kind of fun. Looking for a new delay pedal. What would you recommend? Well, right now I'm playing through this Dunable, which is like a, or Dunable, however he pronounces it. It's a reverb and delay in one pedal. That's kind of fun. What else for a delay? I'm doing a demo right now for this other pedal called a Sidekick, which is sitting here on the desk right beside me. It's my Sidekick. But it's also got reverb and chorus in it. That's really cool. It's a simple delay, simple reverb, and simple chorus all in one pedal. What kind of delay are you looking for? Are you looking for like a something to put in an effect loop, or maybe in what's up, Doc says he's still drunk. Well, that's okay. Just make a cup of coffee and just go easy. I've completely forgot my train of thought went out the window. I was talking about delay pedals. Yeah, are you looking for a small delay? I mean, like what I have a full-blown, DD500 on my pedal board, and then I have an Echoplex. So like a simple 3-knob delay and then a digital one in the loop. Just depends on what you want to do. Plexico says, greetings, Pete. Hope you're well. Thanks, man. I hope you are too. And he's up there in the super chat. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. I'm also playing through a Timmy pedal right now, which is kind of fun. The MXR Timmy, which sounds great in front of the PT. That's without it. I'll turn it on. Yeah, it's great. Really nice. You know, the little blue Timmy pedal from MXR. If it'll show up there, can I get it in the shot? There it is. Little guy. Really great pedal for kind of natural overdrive. What's up from Vancouver Island? Says, what's up, Doc? Good to see you. Who else we got here? What else we got in the house? Just realizing I forgot to do something, but it's no big deal. Let's see here. Pete, can you play the blue 3? You forgot to play the blue 335. You want to hear the 335? The problem with this guitar is it can't stay in tune right now. It's one of those guitars that even with a straight string pull, just doesn't seem to want to stay in tune. You know what? I'm just forgetting one thing. Give me 10 seconds here. I'm coming right back. I just realized I didn't eat a thing before I started. And these are hard to do for 2+ hours on an empty stomach. Get the tuning going. Here's the string pop and the nut. It's the G and the D and the B on this guitar. And they pop in the nut. Nice sounding guitar. It's cool. You can hear it better if I go to a clean channel. And that's a Timmy. It's so quiet. I bet you guys can't even hear this. Probably sounds terrible. That's without the Timmy. Oh, I got the bright on the amp off. That's why it sounds so dark. It's in the middle position on this guitar. It's a nice sounding guitar. Bring back the Sir. The 335 is crap, says Nathaniel. DG 335. It's a good guitar. I just need to figure out why the nut is binding so much. I think I just need to get the nuts cut again, or the nut slots widened a little bit. So Chris Post says he's waiting to sort of dealer to get a PT15IR and matching cab to come in, and I'm going to go play it. I saw a bunch of them. I was by the shop actually, and there was a bunch of them being prepared. So I saw that the other day. For those just joining, Jennifer's going to join at about 11:30. So in about 15 minutes, I'll be joined by Jennifer Batten. So it should be good fun. Ben Coombs is here. What's up, man? Hey, Pete, get some nut sauce guaranteed to solve your tuning problems, says Carl. I use that stuff, Carl. I have a tube of it over here, and it is helpful, but there's no substitute for a good nut. It should just be that stuff is kind of a Band-Aid, and I use it all the time. But on a guitar, especially a guitar like this with a straight string pull, you would think this would stay in tune better than a 335, right? Because it's got completely pretty much straight string pull. A little bit of, more angle over the nut for sure than a Strat or something because of the headstock tilt back angle. So that's going to create some issues if you don't have it. You just, long story short, you need a really good cut nut, I think. So, hey, Pete, have you tried the Fryette Power Station 100? I have. Yeah, says Guitar Lover. I have, and it sounds really good, and I'm getting one. So it's coming in pretty soon. Should have it pretty quick. Who else we got here? I actually heard it. He was doing some final kind of stuff, and I happened to be in Friedman's shop, and he was doing some final kind of testing, and I heard 2 different versions, and he was sort of looking for feedback because they were tuned in slightly different. And one of them basically did it sounded like dead nuts, just like the unattenuated amp. Like basically what we did was we had an amp up pretty loud, but then we had it in line so that you could bypass it and listen to the, and we had it volume matched. So we were going back and forth between where it was load with the power station and then the bypassed amp right through to the cabinet. And it was really close. I mean, like super hard to tell the difference. So I think it does a great job. It's my favorite reamp device. The Sur Reactive Load is my favorite device for loading an amp for recording. And then the power station is my favorite kind of reamp or attenuation. It's not really an attenuator. Patrick says, Pete, what do you look for in frets, action, or the board after the 12th fret? After the 12th fret? Well, it's kind of interesting you say that. I mean, basically for me, like as far as the truss rod and adjustment goes, I always do this thing where I hold the string at the first fret and then down at the end with my thumb like that. And then I use like the G string to check and this guitar actually looks like it's got a little bit more relief than I like right now. It's interesting, is that like, I was just saying, you got me thinking about Jakey Lee, who actually has a different fret from about the 12th or 14th on up. He uses 6100s down here, and then he uses 6105, a thinner fret, for the rest of the fingerboard as and he's also a, Gibson scale user, even though it's a Strat style guitar. It's a 24 3/4 scale. So that kind of makes sense because it's a little narrower up there. 6100s can get a little tight on a fretboard that's I find on a fretboard that's a 24 3/4 scale. Who's up there in the super chat? Ray Potter, getting a second PT212 cab, and I can't wait. That's such a great cab. Thanks for all you do. Thanks, man. Have a coffee and cider on me. I will. Thank you. Appreciate that. Long list of chores, but we'll catch the replay. So do you have? I can't. Well, I guess you're not here, or maybe you took off. But I wonder if you've got the newer version of the 212, or if you've got the older sort of horizontal one. Just curious. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Didn't know the Charvels were shorter scale. Just thought the ESPs were, says Ethan. His main Charvel, which I've actually played, is a 24 3/4. Yeah, the white one. Probably the blue one too, I guess. But I've played the main white one that he's used for a number of years now. That's like a reproduction of his original one that they made for him, I guess. Twiggy's in Portugal, and he says, hello. Hey, man, what's up? About 370 people online. Good to see all you folks. If anybody's just joining, Jennifer's going to join in about 10, 15 minutes, something like that. And Todd Roy says he'd like to see Richie Kotzen do this. I'd love to see him do this. That'd be terrific. He's a great guy. I could ask and see if he'd be interested. I really like him. Actually, he's a very nice person. Great musician, obviously, but a good guy too. What's up, Docs in Gold River, BC? That's cool. Nice up there. Vancouver Island. Miss that place. I do. How many songs do you keep in your head at any given time, says Barry? Not that many, to be honest, these days. I feel like I don't have. I'm going to start taking Prevagen or something. I feel like my memory isn't what it used to be. I was watching Tom Bukovac, he does those shows every day now, which has been awesome, called Homeschooling, and I really enjoy them. And he was saying that he's like a encyclopedia of classic rock. He knows most songs, I don't really retain. If you ask me to go, I can do it or whatever, you know. No, somebody busted my balls the other day for playing that with hammer-ons. There, I picked it. But anyways, you know, I remember riffs, but you know, I don't. I guess I can play quite a few songs, but I don't. I'm not like, you know, photographic memory of like a million songs or anything like that. That's not just not. It's not how I roll. Play some riffs. Okay, who else we got here? I learn songs and then they get mentally discarded, says Arthur. Yeah, when I think about, you know, my earlier years, like 20 years ago or something, when I was getting started and playing professionally and stuff, I at any given time would have 4 sets of music running around in my head of like different bands that I was playing in or whatever, different things I was doing. And I tend to retain, you know, when I'm doing a gig, I retain things really well. And if I, you know, if it's up to, you know, I mean, at any given time when I was playing with Chris Cornell, for example, we got up to over 100 songs at one point that we could play, that we could just kind of pull out. I mean, some of them, sure, maybe it's like, I want to do this tonight. Well, we better run that at sound check, you know, make sure that we remember it. But for the most part, we could pull out, you know, about 100 tunes at any time. And I'll keep that in my head when I'm on a gig, you know, that'll happen. But then once I get away from music for a little while, like even if, like, I'll give you an example. I did the Ultimate Queen celebration gig last year, and I did like 4 or 5 shows with them or something. And I could play, you know, 22 Queen songs, I think. There's no way I could do that right now. I mean, I can play Bohemian Rhapsody note for note right now. I could probably play half the set right now. But those, it's really hard music, and it's, you know, you got to be like on the ball with the, you know, there's a lot of like chromatic. It's not blues, you know, most of it. Some of it is, but those songs I would really have to review right now. So, and that was just last year. So anyways, when I learn a Rush song, says JB Blues Guitar, if I don't practice it for 3 weeks, I have to start again. Yeah. And then it comes back, right? Like you remember like, oh yeah, that's how that thing goes. Sometimes it's kind of scary though, when you're like, man, I knew this note for note at one point, and then you learn it and it feels like you didn't know it at some point. That happens to me too. Like where it's like, I don't remember doing this move, but I know I must have done it before, you know, playing these notes. Kind of funny. Yeah, when you play with three bands, it's very hard to manage all sets. I need to start doing weekly repertoire review sessions. It's time consuming, isn't it? It's Antonio. I saw a bass player friend of mine a little while ago. Great bass player that's played with a ton of people. You know, Sheryl Crow, Don Henley, like all kinds of people she's played with. And she sounded great. I saw her at a gig in Highland Park, and she was playing with a terrific group of musicians. And I hadn't seen her in years, and she sounded awesome. And I talked to her afterwards, and I was like, so what are you up to? What's going on? She's like, oh, you know, just gigs. He's playing in a million bands. And I said, that's cool. That's awesome. She goes, I shouldn't actually even say this because it's like, it's not, but she was like, she was kind of frustrated. She was like, I'm tired of having all this music like running around in my head. Like it's exhausting sort of thing. And I get that. I can relate to that. Like when you're younger, it's like you absorb. And then as you get older, it's just like, God, like you just kind of want to take a break or something sometimes and not absorb at the same. I don't know. Sometimes I love it, but at other times it does feel like a little more. I don't know how to describe it other than it's like I just want to take a rest from so much learning sometimes. So anyways, Ray Potter up there in the chat, super chat. Thanks, man. He says the new one. Okay, so you want to get 2 of the cabs. That's cool. You'll have a little full 412 stack with 2 212s. I have a Marshall 212 that I've put heritage greenbacks in and V30s, and I can't get it to sound nearly as good. Wow, that's interesting. Donated that Marshall to a good cause if you know of anything or anyone who needs it. Wow, that's amazing, man. I don't. I guess you could sell it and donate the cash or something. It's interesting if it's a similar cabinet that it doesn't sound as good. Is it the same, or is it one of those 1936 side by side? I never really liked that cabinet very much, the Marshall 1936. But they also made the similar cabinet to the Pete. It was, you know, big part of the inspiration for my cabinet was I always liked the little Marshalls from the 2061X that are a similar size, and Divided by 13 made a similar one too. And I like that cabinet a lot. I just think they sound cool and they look cool. My friend Brian Ray used them from his Divided by 13 quite a bit. Let's see here. Mike Kamara, thanks for Ray for doing the super chat thing. If anybody's just joining, we got 425 people online. I'm going to be joined in just a few minutes here, probably about 5 minutes, I think, by Jennifer Batten. She's going to pop in at 11:30. If you're wondering where she is. Mike Kamara says, HX stomp question. He's up there in the super chat. If you're going into the front of a clean amp, would it be more appropriate to use the amp or preamp models for the same thing? As using an A1 AB pedal? Oh, I don't know what that means. AIAB. That's up. You guys and your tricky acronyms. Would it be more appropriate to use the amp or the preamp modelers for the same thing? I would say try both. I mean, generally speaking, when I've used the amp models in something like the Stomp or the Helix, into the front of an amp, I would use the preamp if you want to run it like a distortion pedal. I've done it where I've used the my Helix and eliminated, because I'm using a 4-cable method, so I won't turn on the effects loop, and then I'm running essentially the Helix right into the effects return of my amp. If you set it up 4-cable method, you don't turn on the loop that you got your amp's preamp patched in, then you get only the Helix in front. And I've pretty successfully used amp models into the effect return then of my amp, and I'll just use the whole model, like with the power amp sim and everything. I know you're getting like a double power amp sim then essentially, but it always sounds pretty good to me. I haven't done it a lot, but I've used it for like AC30 style models, and I did something with line 6 where I demonstrated that in a video, I think years ago, and I showed that I could do the, you know, Fender clean and Marshall drive with my amp, but my amp's not a Vox, so if I want to get a Voxy thing, and then I turned that on and went, you know, so I had 4 presets, Fender, Vox, Marshall, and a lead preset. It was kind of cool, but anyways, just experiment with it. Whatever sounds good is good. Maybe you could use it in front. I think Tim Pierce did a video where he used the Helix models right in front of his amp, and he said he liked it. As I remember, that was like something that he did. I could be wrong, but I think so. So yeah, whatever sounds good. Some of the drives are great, man. The drives in the Helix, you try those in front of your amp. I really like the Timmy one, and the Big Muff's cool too, and the Octafuzz is cool, and the Tube Screamer's cool. What's the other one? The Klon. You know, I can't remember what they call it in there. What do they call it? I don't remember what it's called, but I'm still waking up. Sorry. But try it. You'll figure it out. Steve Roberts says, hey, what about getting the guys from the Chris Cornell band on the show one day? God, I would love that. That would be great. I wonder if we could get everybody together, because Yogi's over in Croatia. So it'd have to be, it'd be pretty late for him, but he's a musician. He's probably up late. I'd love to do that. I feel like with that guitar, you need to throw down some Foo Fighters tunes. I mean, Chris Cornell used to introduce me more than once with this guitar, and he'd say, and on Dave Grohl's guitar, it's Pete Thorn. Because I had this guitar back then. That's when I got it, when I was playing with him, like 2008. I just loved it. I always liked Trinis. I wanted to get an original Trini, and then I never did. But September Fire is up there in the super chat. He says, when setting string height on a Floyd's, I think you mean a Floyd, must all tension, spring, and string be relieved first before moving the bridge post? I generally think that's a good idea, to relieve the tension before, because the posts are kind of, the knife edges, I worry about grinding the post, you know, against the knife edge when I turn it. So I don't always do it. You know, you're like, oh God, I just want to do a quick change. I don't want to lose it. But, you know, I always feel like I'm doing something wrong. So I know what you mean. Maybe at least maybe a little bit of lubricant or something, a little bit of, you know, 3-in-1 or something would be would be a good idea if you're going to crank those things around with it right against the knife edge. But I think it's a good idea. I can't see how it doesn't damage it. I see Jennifer just joined, and I can add her to the stream here in a minute, but I'm wondering if she hears me. She's probably got to get her mic set up and stuff. So give me 1 second here, guys. I wonder if she can hear me. I'm going to wait till I hear her say something before I add her to the stream here. Can't hear her speaking. And I think my audio should be good and stuff, but yeah, I can't hear her. You guys can obviously hear me, right? Can you hear me, Jennifer? You can hear me. Okay. Yeah, I can't hear you for some reason. It's like an audio input thing. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't hear anything. Well, I'm gonna wait till I hear her say something before I add her to the stream here. But Preston Smith says he hates Floyd Rose. I still love Floyd Rose. I know it's a thing. They're a pain in the butt, but there's still nothing like them for what they do. You know, it's a thing. We've got to appreciate them for what they are. Any luck yet, Jennifer? Yeah. I see she's got headphones and stuff and is all set up, but I don't hear her. Normally I hear people. I wonder if I add her to the stream. Let's give it a try, guys, and we'll see. And we'll see if that adds the mic. I don't know if it will, but we'll give it a go. Your people. I wonder if I add her to the stream. Let's give it a try, guys, and we'll see. And we'll see if that adds the mic. I don't know if it will, but we'll give it a go. Your people. I wonder if I add her to the stream. I've got to close. Hi. And we'll see if that adds the mic here. Give me 1 sec, folks, because I got a YouTube open. Okay, can you hear me, Jennifer?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, there we go. Got you working.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you fine. It's perfect.
What a drag, man. I was trying to use the Logitech headset for input, output, and I was getting this loop feedback thing. Goddamn tech.
I know. It's all this COVID, like we need tech. Where's my tech? I need help. How are you? I know. It's all this COVID.
You know, I think there's a hell of a delay, and I'm not sure.
How are you?
Son of a bitch.
There is a delay. Maybe try refreshing your browser.
You know, I think there's a hell of a delay.
And just try it. That might work. Yeah. Well, she'll be back. She'll be back. We'll get it going. Let's see here. Delay, says somebody. We all love delay, though. Okay, I'm going to add her back to the stream. Let's see her again. Get this going. Hi. Delay, says somebody. We all love delay, though. Wow, that's weird. There is so much delay. Hi. Delay, says somebody. We all love delay, though. Let me get rid of this.
Maybe I'll just get rid of the headset altogether.
Yeah.
Delay, says somebody.
That might try something else, maybe, and see if that works. Because it
rid
sounds
of
like your speakers are on. Yeah.
Delay, says somebody.
That might try something else. Maybe. We're getting some cool effects on them. Your speakers are on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got to hear you somehow.
Can you hear me at all right now? Because I can hear, I can hear the feedback happening. You guys hear the feedback out there, probably, right, guys? Can you hear me at all right now? I can hear.
I can hear you now, but now my
feedback happening. You guys hear the feedback out there, probably, right, guys? Got like a wicked.
My volume is disabled. Okay, maybe I can hear you here and talk. Okay.
Got like a wicked.
My volume is disabled. Okay,
get it.
Maybe I can hear you here and talk. Son of a bitch. I'm gonna try one more time.
Okay. See you in a sec. We'll get it going. Says, I think someone will need to close their YouTube page. Yeah, that's true. Maybe she's got her YouTube page open. That's good. That was a good point from Great Vanzini. I hadn't thought of that, but maybe she's got a YouTube page open. All right, when she joins back there, I'm going to mention that. and get it happening. Keith says, thanks for the time you continue to spend with all of us on Sundays. Really enjoy the recordings for Classic Rock Show. Thanks, man. Yeah, another one just went up yesterday from Thunderstruck. If you hadn't seen that one, and it was really fun to do that. Okay, I'm going to add her back to the stream. Hi.
Hey.
Hey.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, 10 points to the guy that pointed out the YouTube thing.
That's right. That's what it was. I know. Yeah, that's cool because I hadn't thought of it either. I'm just going to set this down.
Well, that was a rough start for an easy process.
Part of my show is, I pride it on the homebrew aspect. I take pride in the homebrew aspect.
Oh, lucky me.
Yeah, it's okay.
Hey, Pete, before we get started, I have to tell you somebody. I was sharing the post about this yesterday, and somebody. Let's see. I want to quote this exactly because it's pretty special.
Okay.
Let's see. Pete Thorn could plug his guitar into a potato, and it would still sound better than the rest of us. I think it's such a cool thing that you're doing for people. I was thinking about that the other day, and man, if I was 12, 13, 14 years old and had access to this channel, it would be a whole different world.
You're too kind.
And especially before the internet, you just had to rely on the local music shop and what people knew. But man, you are like the guru, the sound guru. It's great.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
Wow. No, seriously, people are really lucky. I mean, people like in bumfuck wherever that just would not ever have access. You can learn so much from just listening to your opinions about stuff or just stuff that you don't even realize is affecting people's lives. So there you go.
So I feel that way about so many, like watching, I was just mentioning Tom Bukovac is doing this great show every day called Homeschooling. And I've been loving that. Eric Johnson started putting up lessons.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah. He's got a cool channel and he's doing these great lessons. So he's got 2 up now. And it's amazing. It's one of the things that's come out of this whole weird time. That's a positive. Folks have time and they're sharing all this information. It's really amazing.
I used to, I had a connection with this guy that started a Jeff Beck fan club long before I got in his band. And he sent me this box of like 4th generation VHSs. And I would sit there with the remote control hitting stop to see where his fingers were. And, that big line across the screen and going back and forth and back and forth. Now you just take a video, put it in transcribe, make a loop of what you want, put it down to 25% speed, and you got it.
Isn't it amazing?
Today.
I know. I was working on Eric Clapton style vibrato yesterday, like the fingertips, the only thing touching the neck, and the arms doing all the work kind of thing. And I just went on and found 5 great lessons yesterday from people kind of showing that whole, because I feel like I suck at that, so I'm trying to work on that. But it's amazing. You can find anything now.
It's really overwhelming. I mean, when you say, okay, I'm going to learn something on YouTube today, it's like, it's like a tornado coming at you and you're down a rabbit hole and then it's next Tuesday.
Yeah, totally. Hey, I mean, anything you want to learn. Like I remember the other day, a couple of years ago, I was moving out of an apartment I was in and I was trying to figure out how to plug holes in the wall from picture when you put those wall things in, the whatever they call them. And I went on YouTube and the guy showed how you cut them off the razor blade and then you can just paint over them and patch them. So you take a razor blade and cut the piece of plastic off on the outside. I learned that on YouTube. You can learn anything on YouTube. This is amazing. So
I made this one of my pride and joys. It's like my own personal train set, but it's a catio for my cats, and I keep putting different platforms up and all this stuff. And I made this work of art that I have a ramp that comes out my bedroom window. Then it goes up to the spiral staircase that goes up 10 feet. And the cat just hangs out there and flips off all the other cats in the neighborhood. And outside of it is copper tubing. And I learned how to solder copper tubing online. You would not want me to fix your plumbing, however. I saw 2 great tutorials and they were completely contradicting each other.
Is that right? Is that, yeah? You got to go with the one with the most views and the least dislikes, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing, man. I have been swimming in tutorials, and you get these people that they start like, I don't really know how this works, but
you're like, off, click, off, done. Yeah, that's totally true. Well, we go way back, and like people probably don't know that, but
yeah,
like you're one of the very first people I actually met moving to LA.
I met you when you were a puppy.
Yeah, underage, literally. Yeah, I was 19, and well, no, I guess that's not underage, 18, but I was under the drinking age. I was 19, and you were teaching at NMI, and I used to come hang out with you all the time in your open counseling, and we made friends, and it was awesome.
That's why I wanted you in my band. You know, I was thinking about your personality. Of course, you're going to be, oh, stop. But there is a reason you get the gigs that you get. And a lot of it has to do with a disarming personality, you know, because if it's ever like you walk in with an ego, like I got something to prove and you better not be better than me kind of thing. There was none of that. And that made me feel totally safe. And it was about just the music, you know, and that makes so much sense. And I think a lot of people that don't get gigs and get frustrated need to have a look in the mirror and see, you know, what's really inside there? What are you offering? Because getting the gigs that we got, you have to have the kind of mindset, like, I'm here to serve. What is it that you need? You're hiring me for a job. And it's, you know, there were several times where when I was with Jeff Beck, he was saying, oh, man, I should give you your own spot, like 10 minutes to do your own thing. And I'm thinking, hell no. I am not what people come to see. It's like the Beck show. And if I'm supposed to do guitar synth, I'll do that. If you want me to play guitar, if you want me to do solos, if you don't want me to do solos, just let me know. Because I'm just happy to be on stage kind of thing.
Well, he was like one of your biggest heroes, right? And then you end
big
up
time. Still is.
It's so cool that you end up playing with him. And I mean, I can't imagine, you know, it must be unbelievable to end up in your hero's band, you know?
Well, it's not something I ever imagined either, because he never played with other guitar players. He did briefly with Rough and Ready with Bob Tench, the singer, played guitar. And, you know, in the Yardbirds, I think there was a period where, well, Jimmy Page played bass for a minute, but I think they both played guitar for a minute as well. But it's a keyboard band. So it never occurred to me. I just wanted an autograph and I'd be good, you know? I gave him a copy of my first CD thinking, I made my connection. I got my autograph, bucket list, check, thinking that he'd probably never listen to it, because I know when I go out, I'm just inundated with CDs. And it's just, there's not enough hours in the world to listen to all that stuff. He called me a couple months later and said, I finally had a chance to listen, English accent, to listen to your record properly. And or I should go Monty Python, and let's listen.
Now I'm going to think Jeff talks like that. I've never heard his speaking.
No. Well, he does when he mimics John Cleese, for sure. He's got a comedic side that's unbelievable. You would never know from just seeing him in a show, but we would watch comedy every night after the shows.
Awesome.
Like Robert Tilden, you know, he's an evangelical preacher, and somebody inserted fart noises for like everything that he did.
I remember that.
The same thing every night after the show in Japan, just dying.
Oh my God.
Crazy time.
Amazing. Oh man. What was the first time? So he called you and said, I listened to your CD. And then what, so tell us about like what happened right after. How did you end up?
What happened right after that was I peed myself.
Perfect. That's what I would do.
Yeah, man, I would have given anything to have that call recorded, because he was just going off about how great my CD was, and then blah, blah, blah. Wow. You know, and it's funny how the mind works. You know, I'm listening to these words and my ego's just going, yeah, pretty badass, isn't it? As soon as I hung up, I'm going, oh shit, if he only knew how many times I had to punch that one line. I'm a fraud. You know? And in true Beck form, it was 5 years before we played.
Oh, okay.
From that phone call. So he just threw the energy out there and then just went into other things. And
Yeah.
I saw him several times after that and before we played together. And he did a tour with Santana, and I saw him a few shows on that and some other tour. And when we'd connect, he'd always go, we're still going to do this thing. And I thought, you don't have to say that. I mean, just the fact that you had that thought is good enough for me.
Right.
Yeah. Then I don't have to face the intimidation of it really happening.
Well, then it also creates a thing where you're anticipating it. And if you go too far into those thoughts, it can be right. Cause you're like, oh, I don't want to believe that that's true. Cause it's like, then if it never happens, it can be a letdown. I don't know. I always try and protect myself from that stuff a little bit.
Oh yeah. And actually even after I got in the band, and until we did a show, I didn't tell anybody that it was happening. Because I thought, man, if this doesn't work out, how much does that suck? The word was out there, oh, she couldn't cut it. But he's an odd bird. He finally called one day and said, come on over, let's do a tour. We got a tour of Italy booked. Yeah. And I'm like, I've never even played with him. At that point, I had 2 CDs. So he had confidence from the CDs, but still, you really got to play with somebody. Yeah. And he's the kind of guy that just jump and the net will appear. He'll just have this idea and he's off. It either works or it doesn't. And so I booked myself an audition for my own sanity. I was flying over to Italy to do a techno session for this company. I thought, well, I'm that far over. I'm just going to book myself to London. And I learned most of the Guitar Shop record and just played it in his presence just to make sure he wasn't nuts. It's like, are you sure? I'm going to make sure. I'm going to show you what I can do. Make sure that you want what I can do. That's amazing. I'll tell you what, that night ended with his girlfriend, who is now his wife, breaking out the whiskey about midnight. Cool. It was you just don't turn that down, right? Yeah. I had an early flight and I had to go to Italy after that. And I'm like, I'm not going to pass this up. So I was pretty rough at the next session. But if you can explain that to any producer or band and they'd be like, oh, that's cool. I get it. Yeah. I was partying with Jeff Beck. So I kind of had to. Yeah. That's awesome. Wow. What a thrill. Yeah, it really was. Like I was talking earlier, how I really think people are so lucky to listen to you every week and listen to the opinions and all that. With Jeff, I mean, God, riding in a bus with him for a couple of years, there's a lot of opinions that come across, and we listen to a lot of different music. And in the studio, yeah, I'm on the records, but for the most part, you don't need another guitar player on a Jeff Beck record. Some of what I did was guitar, some of it was guitar synth, but I'd be in the studio all day and I'd be thinking, like, I really don't need to be here. But I swear every day there was one piece of information or some opinion he had about something he was hearing that I go, that was the gem. Being here 8 hours was worth that. Wow. Like one of the things he said was, if the drum groove is great, you don't need much else. It's a real Zen way to look at recording, because most of those guitar players are going, okay, I'm going to record. I have unlimited tracks, so I'm going to fill up every one and show every riff I ever played in my life, for your debut. Yeah. And that's why you can go back and listen to his entire catalog, and he's always doing something new. He has attention span of a gnat, and it's always listening to stuff that's out there. I tell people he will listen to the Spice Girls and Ornette Coleman back to back and get something out of both of those. That's so cool. Well, and the drum groove thing is an excellent point, because a lot of his stuff is groove based and there's a lot of space, and then he comes in, so it's like he builds this great, like it's like this wonderful sort of bed for him to just create over, which is, and if anybody's ever played with a drummer that's truly exceptional, it's such a great feeling. Like when the drums and bass are just locked in, I can play anything right now. It's like I can kind of be sloppy and it doesn't really matter because there's this great thing that, so I love that. That's great.
That's a good.
Yeah, and the feeling of confidence when you have a great rhythm section where you're not afraid of there's going to be a train wreck, you know, when
Right.
you know they got your back no matter what happens. It
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
it loosens up your brain to be able to be adventurous instead of just getting by.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. When you feel like you've got, it's like a security blanket having that groove. Just
Yeah.
that's so cool. Yeah. Yeah. And he certainly is, his rhythm set, like bass and drums, is always unbelievable. Everybody he's played with. Well, let's see here. Somebody's saying, oh, Kevin says, you're talking so much sense. They love it.
There's a first for everything.
Come on now. Well, I love this. We got about 600 people online. So that's amazing.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Great.
it's terrific. True Tech says, and the bass player should not copy the guitarist. That's true. It's like when you first pick up a bass as a guitar player, maybe you're like, oh, it's just 4 strings. I can play bass. I learned what a crappy bass player I was. Like when and I love playing bass these days because it's such a different thought process. It's so fun to play bass.
That reminds me of one time, there's another thing I wish I had smart cameras back then to capture this stuff. Ricky Lawson, during a rehearsal one time, did a satire of beginning drum programmers. And he goes, this is how they'll play. And he played everything at the same time. He's like nonstop.
It's fascinating though, right? It's like, yeah, that's the guitar player's perception of what's going on the drums. Oh, I see. Yeah.
Well, when you really don't know the vocabulary, you're just like, oh, look at this power I have. Buttons. I can do all 4 toms at the same time.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. It's true. For those out there that are new to drum programming, try and think like a drummer. You've only got 4 limbs.
Yeah, right. Breathe.
Yeah, there can't be 8 things going on at once. Christopher says, this is such a great meet. So thanks for being here. Let's see if we got any questions here. Looking through the chat. Let's see here. So how about tips on someone like myself that does not play cover tunes? Is that important? That's from What's Up Doc. So I guess What's Up Doc, you must spend most of your time like kind of writing your own tunes and stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with that if that's what you enjoy doing musically, right? I mean,
I remember the guys from U2 said that they started writing because they sucked at doing covers.
Interesting.
You know, everybody's got their own path. For me, I think it was extremely valuable to be in a cover band for a while. Because you think about it, if you're doing 40 songs in a night, it's 40 different styles, 40 different guitar players, and trying to capture the tones of each person is school in itself.
Yep.
But you gotta like it. You gotta want to. So if you have that passion to only do original, have at it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, for people, especially if you're playing with different people, I mean, you've obviously had some huge gigs in your time. And if you're doing that, being in cover bands sets you up for that. I mean, there's no question. And for doing sessions and things where you got to, have a vocabulary to draw on. But if you're primarily, I feel like the 90s was kind of one of the last times when a lot of the bands that came out, when I think about, I mean, obviously, Kurt Cobain probably had a pretty healthy, Beatles, he sounded like he had was a disciple of that type of songwriting stuff. He must have known some cover songs. But I think a lot of those bands like focused mainly on writing and doing their own thing. They weren't like necessarily like, within the context of their own bands, they were amazing, but put them in different bands, they might not have been so amazing, which is absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Well, you look at the Beatles, and they were a cover band in the beginning. Right. They're doing Little Richard. Totally. They learned from the Everly Brothers. That's where they got the ideas for the harmonies in the beginning.
I always say that the Beatles and Van Halen, what's the same thing? They were both great cover bands before they hit it. Right before they hit it big, they were incredible cover bands.
I bet that stuff's online now. I've never heard the
Van Halen
cover band music.
Oh yeah, there's tons.
Oh, I bet there is.
Yeah,
wow.
It's pretty amazing. They're playing everything. I mean, they do like because Dave was really into like R&B and stuff, so they cover all kinds of stuff. But it's like super, or they did ZZ Top or like Zeppelin, stuff you would think maybe they would cover. But they did really cool covers. I've actually had friends that used to play with them. My friend Frank Symes used to be in a band called the Whiz Kids, and they were more like like they were sort of more glam or, you know, Bowie or something like that. And then Van Halen was more, you know, straight up, you know, hard rock and roll. And they used to both play like, I think in Gazzarri's, as Frank explained it to me, they had 2 stages. So they would alternate sets, and they were very competitive. The one band would go on, and the next band would go on. They try, you know, Whiz Kids, like they were kind of more glam or whatever. And a lot of the girls liked them or whatever. And so like Dave was really competitive. It was like, all right, we got to get up and kick their ass. And they'd get up and play. So he would tell me about those days, but Dave is
a force of nature, man.
What's that?
Dave is a force of nature. His audiobook is great. And there's a really great Joe Rogan podcast with him on it. And one of my favorite things he said, he's talking about the fragility of pop music. And he said, you know, here today, gone later today. That's
Just
not how that works. Here's your hit. See ya.
It's totally true. Totally true. Daniel Perkins was asking if studying jazz helped you play over rock changes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you really can't slide in jazz. You can't get through jazz changes by playing A minor pentatonic, you know, through all 32 bars. You really have to get the neck together and be able to see arpeggios wherever you are on the neck. I remember one guy saying a good jazz solo, you should be able to hear the changes without having any rhythm behind you. No keyboards, no rhythm guitar. You just hear the changes because of the note choices. So yeah, jazz it kicked my ass. I really wanted to be a jazz player until my first funk jam, and I go, oh, hell no, this is way more fun.
But the knowledge can be applied to just about any kind of music. It's true. It's like jazz players always felt like they just view it differently. They've got total understanding of harmonically what's going on underneath what they're playing, which, you know, as rock players, we can kind of zone out and look at the pattern. And it's like, if you haven't studied jazz, you know, and I always feel I was guilty of that for sure. And I feel like, you know, getting into more, you know, even just the whole caged thing as a rock player can be a good thing. Just something that simple of seeing those chords, and thinking about what's going on underneath what you're doing. Somebody was asking, they had one of the super chats. They were asking if you'd ever tried one of the modeling guitars. I think they were asking about the JTV, like the Line 6 modeling guitar.
Yeah, the 69.
Yeah. Do you like that? Or,
you know, when I first got it, I loved the electronics, but I changed everything on the guitar. I put a new neck on it, new pickups, the Graphtec Floyd Rose, because that's the only Floyd that will talk to the electronics. Oh. And I used that for a couple years and kind of went, well, actually what happened is Washburn asked me to come back, and they have some great guitars. I ended up coming back with the Parallax, J some shit. I never remember model number. PMX 10, that's what it is. But I changed that up too, because that's the last guitar I had that was a Washburn is a Gibson scale. Okay. And I figure at this age, I'm not going to strain my hands. And I started having a little trouble with my hands. So I had them do a short scale neck, and it's 24 fret, which is really bizarre. It's the first 24 I've had, and it took some getting used to. And I kind of dig it because now you have the freedom to get up that high with the Stevens cutaway. It's really slick. Right. But I switched out the pickups to the Fishman Fluence. So I've got a modern in the bridge, and I got the others are from their Stratocaster series. So I have 3 pickups where the normal of my model is just 2 pickups. And the thing is, you can't get the Strat spacing. So I'm pretty happy with it, but I want it to be a Strat, but then when I play a Strat, I want it to be that. You know?
Never perfect.
I'm not like you, where I got a whole bunch of guitars. I don't like to change strings, for one thing.
What's that?
I don't like to change strings.
Oh God, I hate changing strings. Are you kidding? I hate it. It's my pet peeve.
It's funny, in Jeff Beck's studio, he's got probably, I don't know, maybe a dozen guitars. And I remember one time, every single one of them was missing a string. So he would just go on to the next one that had a string.
Underachiever. I love it.
I would do that.
That's
but I
awesome.
pretty much stick to one guitar these days.
Do you? What's your main guitar these days?
It's the Parallax.
It is the Parallax. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got, this isn't it. I got 3 of them that are very similar.
Okay.
And this one
Wow.
has the Neck Illusions stickers. It's all
my God.
steampunked out.
How can you know where you must be have practiced a lot on a guitar? Because I would get lost with all the.
You know, that's why I had them put the gears on the normal fret markers.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a pattern once that was a beautiful graphic, but there was some nights where the lights were kind of low. I'm going, oh shit, this is too brutal. I had to take them off.
Yeah, I get it. I don't see so well, so it's like, as you know, but I got a guitar recently. It's bird's eye neck, and it's got pearl dots, and it's like, oh man, wait, it's like there's a lot going on this neck. There's a lot. I hope I know where I am right now. Between that and the lighting guy in the last tour I did that had these par cans like on the stage that he'd turn on like during a solo, and they'd be right in your face, and then it's like the bird's eye, and I was like, God. One night I kicked one of the par cans over. I was just like, God, booted it. I can't see. You know, lighting
has so much to do with it, boy. I mean, if the lights aren't right, I really struggle. I really struggle, and I find myself just hunching over the guitar to get closer to the frets. It's brutal because I do a multimedia show. That's a solo show where I play in sync with films, and so the lighting, you don't want light on the screen to wash it out, but you want light on me, and the lights that come from below, I just hate. It's just the worst idea ever.
It is.
And, you know, people will try to keep the lights low, or the worst is when you do sound check, everything's cool. You go to the show, the lights are completely different.
Yeah,
and it's a struggle. And I've stopped after the first song and asked them to please turn the lights up. I can't see.
Yeah. Many times at sound checks, I find they're working on the lights, or there's no lights, and I'm like, so at a sound check, I'm like, can you guys turn on some lights? Like, I can't see up here. I actually can't play right now if the stage is dark. And they'll kind of begrudgingly do it, you know. And then during the show, it's like the polar opposite, where you're like lit up.
See, what we got to do is we'll be wearing face masks for the next year, and somebody's going to come out with LEDs that are built in that come down from your chin.
Oh, I like this. See, you're not afraid of tech. That's one thing I know, because you use the blue guitar amp, and you're like into tech. So
I am. I'm nowhere near as deep as you, but I am using the 4-cable method, and I'm actually between 2 systems now, and I'm super frustrated because I've been using the Digitech RP1000, which is discontinued, and now it's super cheap on eBay. There's some great effects in it, and I'm trying to switch over to the Line 6 HX Stomp, number 1, because it's 2.7 pounds.
Yeah.
Instead of what, 12 or 13. Yeah. And I swear, every time I travel, I have these fantasies of what could I drop? How can I make this lighter? I'm paying excess luggage charges out the ass. And when they came out with the Stomp, I'm going, all right. But another reason I want to switch over to that is Digitech doesn't have MIDI anymore. I got to get my squirt gun for the dogs. You shush, you kids. You kids. No fucking. The Dog King, my new TV show. Man, I completely had a brain fart with that. Where were we?
Oh, you were talking about MIDI on the Digitech. Now.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So the Blue amp is MIDIable. And for several years, if I wanted to switch from a clean channel to a dirt sound, you know, I'd have to step on the amp and then step on the preset that I wanted. And sometimes I use a lot of sounds in my original stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I might have 6 different presets. And you know, when it comes to the B section, bam, it's got to be there. So I started just rolling off the dirt to clean up the amp in lieu of actually having the clean sound that I wanted. So finally, the HX Stomp comes out. Now I can do everything with, I'm using the Soft Step MIDI controller.
Okay.
1 pound. I'm all about the ounces, man.
Yeah, I get it.
It's all about the suitcase.
And you show up at the check-in, and they're like, sorry, you're 1 pound over. Can you take anything out? And you're like, oh, yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, I'm no stranger to that. It makes you feel stabby.
Yeah.
And then whatever you can get away with going from America to Europe or whatever, within Europe is a whole different weight system.
Yeah.
And
You can fly on the same airline to Europe, and then you try and come back on that airline. They'll be like, sorry, you can't. And I'm like, but I flew over on you guys, and how can it be different? It's like,
yeah, it's not going to get any better, man, with all the money they're losing right now.
True.
Woo!
True.
They're probably charge you to go to the toilet now.
My friend Yogi does some big gigs over in China, and he's such a he was my partner in crime in Chris Cornell's band, and he the other guitar player, and he's such a like easygoing dude that he stopped bringing anything. So he would backline everything, including a guitar, and he's like, yeah, whatever, just put a Strat on the back.
Wow, that's risky.
And I mean, these are like arena shows, like 25,000 people that he's playing with this big pop star over there, and he just go for it, and he didn't care. I mean, maybe he brought he might have had like a pod or an HX Stomp or something. I'm not sure, but he wouldn't bring a guitar even.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you just go for it. I kind of love it in a way. I did a tour it was like kind of a promotional tour with an artist where I backlined acoustics. I would just, because I wasn't going to carry an acoustic guitar on a plane and just fly around. So I was like, whatever, just a Taylor or a Martin. And it worked out pretty good. Like I never got like a guitar that was horrible. And it was, it's kind of easy stuff to play. So it was okay.
Hey.
But somebody's asking, it's Adam Cave Project, and he was up in the super chat there. He says, thank you for joining us, Jennifer. Do you have any top accomplishments? God, she's got so many in your career so far that you're the most proud of? And then what are practice techniques you live by? 2 questions.
Well, I'm proud of my CDs because, God damn, that's hard. There's like 5 billion decisions you have to make, and everything's cool. Then it comes to the mix, and the mix can destroy everything. And just the fact that I have 3 CDs out and I haven't jumped off a bridge, that's a big accomplishment. Right there. And of course, getting the Beck gig, or both the gigs are huge, right? Yeah. But especially the Beck gig, because that's more in line of, my guitar world. And there was a point in time where I memorized every solo on 2 of his records, Wired and Blow by Blow, and I could just play them back to back and learn so much from that stuff. Then to actually be in his band is, man, I tell you what, he sent me a track that Tony Hymas wrote that was kind of classical, and it was really difficult, and it wasn't. You couldn't play it exactly on guitar because of the octaves. It went below guitar and above guitar. And so I did what I could, but I was learning that. And so many times I just wanted to call him up and go, man, you got the wrong girl. I swear. And I just plodded on. And thankfully we got through it. But okay, I can only take one question at a time. So that's one. And what, the practice routine?
Oh yeah. Like if you got any practice techniques you live by.
Yeah, I do, but I'm not plugged in here. I got partial studios everywhere since lockdown. It's like I got the green screen in this room and I got tripod set up here. Yeah, one thing I did long ago, I was super frustrated that, well, when I was at GIT, I thought I was probably the slowest guitar player in the class. And that was frustrating. Al Di Meola was the shit at the time, so everybody was trying to get that kind of stuff down. And so the thing with music is, when you're improving, you don't really realize it unless you can listen to audio of yourself 5 years back and go, "Wow, I sucked back then, and I've come this far." But the thing is, you're always going like this. I want to be here, but I'm here, and it just keeps progressing like that for the rest of your life. You're always the next thing. But speed is one thing that you can scientifically improve on and watch your improvement. So I set out, this was before these laptops, the thing you kids are using these days. I went out and got an accounting book that had a ledger that had every other line down was light blue, and then it had lines this way. And so I would take scales. Say I had a G Ionian. I would start at the 3rd position and play groups of 4, da 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 da, like that, and do triplets. I would do every interval, diatonic 3rds, 4ths, 5ths, 6ths, 7ths are kind of tough, diatonic 8ths, and I would do each of these on every fret up to the 12th fret. and I would mark the metronome setting. I could play it at fastest without making a mistake. And if I made a mistake, I'd push it back down. And man, doing that every single day for an hour, you could see the improvement over. Well, I'm trying to keep in the camera. Keep it in front of my face. You could see the improvement go like that.
I love this idea though. Like, you should make a YouTube video on that. I'd love to see what that was like. Hey, this is how I was able to. That'd be a great YouTube video.
I'm so behind on the whole social media thing. It just kind of like people dragged me into Facebook, and it's like, okay, now I'm here. You got to be on Facebook, and now it's like Instagram and Twitch and YouTube. And during lockdown and watching all these tutorials, I'm kind of into it, and I see the possibilities. And now, for the first time ever, I'm starting to upload on a regular basis on my YouTube channel. And I started a thing called the Riff Kitchen, where in the beginning, I'm using my green screen. So like one day I'm in the mountains, and next day I'm on the beach, and kind of having fun with it that way. And my first one, the mic hiss is horrible and the camera is horrible. So it's baby steps. It's getting much better.
But like, I love that stuff. I love the homebrew aspect of it. Like what happened with us. It's okay. It's like, because it shows it's not like we're not in some TV studio and there's nobody else here. It's just we're just making this shit work, right?
Yeah. Thanks to the watchers are saying, you got YouTube on. Right. You know what I need? I saw this ad for the coolest thing the other day. You fit it on your laptop, and it's 2 more screens that come out to the left and right. So I could actually see each window. It's like,
I could use that.
$700-800. It's a bit much for somebody that's not working right now, but eventually.
I wish I had more screens in my. I've just got one pretty big one here, but it's helpful having at least 2, so you can split the windows up of the different apps for sure.
Yeah.
Laurel is asking. She says, Jennifer, thank you so much for being such an inspiration, especially to female musicians like myself. You're amazing. And not really a question, just saying thanks, Pete, for making this possible. I mean, I'm so stoked that you're able to do this. It's just, it's wonderful.
Where else would I be, Pete? It's actually a really positive thing. I mean, of course, the whole virus thing is horrendous, and so many people have suffered. And I tell you what, the first 2 months, I was so depressed. I'm thinking, oh God, I'm supposed to be in the UK right now. Right. All the gigs are just gone. Poof. All the money you thought was coming in is just gone. But my mind would go back and forth between this is the apocalypse to this is a sabbatical. Apocalypse, sabbatical, apocalypse, sabbatical.
Yeah, I understand.
And now, maybe about 2 weeks ago, it really kicked into the sabbatical side, and I'm there every day, and I'm thinking all these possibilities. Because really, I was looking at the last decades. I mean, aside from Michael Jackson and Jeff Beck, which were super primo gigs, I have taken a lot of beatings from travel. They lose the guitar, they break the guitar, you have no luggage, you got a gig in 2 hours. And, it's really a really stressful life.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got a festival audience, sometimes you got a club where there's only 75 people show up or something. Yeah. And the potential of the internet is so much bigger than any club in the world.
Yeah.
That I'm thinking maybe I won't ever get on a plane again.
I get that. If I never had to fly again, honestly, I mean, I love once I get there, and I love certain aspects. But like when I got back from tour at the end of February, I mean, right before the lockdown happened, I got back from being away I did a clinic tour of Europe, clinic tour of Asia, and then 6 weeks in the UK. I was gone for like 6 months. Like it felt like I mean, from August. Yeah, and it was just like not a lot of home time coming. I came back a little bit for Christmas, and then I was like gone again for 6 weeks. And I had a great time. It was all awesome. But when I got home, I was like, I do not want to see my suitcase. And I put it in the closet. And then this all happened. It was like, whoa, be careful what you wish for, because
same here. Yeah.
But I was really actually ready to come home. I feel bad for a lot of my friends that were just getting ready to, my buddy John Button plays in the Who. He was just leaving the next day to go to UK to start a Who tour. That's all off till next year now. So if we're lucky. So it's a mixed bag. I mean, I learned I can kind of cook some stuff, which was like fascinating to me. It's like, whoa, and I like it. I actually like.
Yeah, I think people are going to end up way more healthy from being forced to learn how to cook. Because,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, all the fast food and all the restaurants and the takeouts and stuff, they all need your money. But for me, I'm not going to risk it. One of my best friends has some health issues, and I am not going to risk getting the virus and passing it on to somebody. So
Yeah.
I don't ever eat out. I steam vegetables. I went vegan a couple of years ago.
Oh,
And
wow.
I have like 3 or 4 things I cook, and I'm good.
Yeah. 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 Well, there's definitely positives, you know, that are coming about from the whole thing, even though it's really stressful and terrible in so many ways too. Simon says, was Jennifer approached by Ibanez to do a guitar way before Washburn? I mean, you used to be an Ibanez endorser, right? Back in.
Yeah. It's funny because I worked at Valley Arts Guitar teaching.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I worked there for several years, teaching a couple days a week.
Huh.
And there was a guy that worked there in retail that moved to Ibanez while I was teaching there. And I thought, oh, that's my Ibanez connection. Because at that time, Ibanez was putting buttloads of money into the inside cover of Guitar Player magazine with these full color ads and really launching guitar players. And I thought, man, that's what I want.
Yep.
And I called him up thinking we're bros, right? And I totally got dissed. It just
Really?
Yeah, because at that time I had nothing to offer. But I tell you, the day I got the Jackson gig, is like, how many guitars do you want?
Right. Right.
Now you're worth something. So yeah, I had, let's see, the Bad Tour was 1987, and I joined in the fall that year Ibanez, and I ended up with a new guitar every year, and every single neck warped.
Oh,
Everyone.
really?
And
Well, they were kind of thin, right? The necks, and
they were very thin. Yeah.
I remember the guitar. You had the yellow one, and I remember
Yep.
What was that model called? It was like the kind of the body was really thin too. It kind of Saber, right? Yeah.
I had several different models over the years there, but after that 7th one, I just go, dude, what up? And their response was, well, you just have bad luck with necks. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go to a new forest. And honestly, so I did have one shit Washburn guitar that I had such high hopes, and it just wouldn't stay in tune to save my ass, even with a Floyd on it. But other than that, I've been really happy with them. And, you know, I'll get a guitar in the mail and open it up and go, it doesn't look like a Strat. I don't know about this. But as soon as I play it, I go, oh, this is really comfortable and it sounds great. And same thing with the Parallax. I'm really happy with it. So yes, I was an Ibanezer for a hot minute.
Yeah, for a little while. I remember that's what you were using when we first met. And yeah. So, you know, I've never owned an Ibanez. I mean, I'm a guitar nut, and I've had a lot of guitars. I've never had an Ibanez. I don't know why. I kind of like the Joe Satriani one. I think it's kind of cool. Like the I don't know, something about it. I wouldn't mind having one of those for sure. Taking a look here. G Joe 9 says loving to cook, but alcohol intake is increased. Yeah, well, I think we all got that going on a little bit.
You know what? It's alcohol and caffeine with me.
Yeah, me too.
I just want to be extra jacked up all day long, and
then wind down.
Kind of not drinking that much, but I am buying more than I normally would. Well, it was up, I think 25% at least alcohol sales.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, huge jump.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Wineries are doing great.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, just groceries in general. I mean, it's like, you know, people buying things from the grocery store and the liquor store. I guess that stuff's all because it's crazy. But let's see here. Greetings from Indonesia, says Arisa. I love we got people in here from all over the place. Just looking
I've been down there several times.
Looking for another. Yeah, Indonesia. I was there for the first time in the fall, actually.
In Bali or Jakarta?
Just Jakarta. I would have loved to get to Bali, but I didn't make it there. So.
Yeah, gorgeous. I damn near broke my knee there. I recorded I filmed a video down there, which was super ridiculous. I was with a record label at the time where the guy had construction money, the guy that was behind the label. So the music was just kind of fun for him. And he goes, let's shoot in Bali. That You know, I
Wow.
can't imagine what he spent to bring a film crew down there.
Yeah.
But it was magical, man. It was just gorgeous.
Yeah. Was that like Relativity or no? That label or no? Or was that
You know, the Relativity thing imploded. It's a long story, but the producer and his wife and Relativity were button heads. Like I was supposed to record on that, which was kind of lofty for me. That was intimidating because Satriani and Vi had already been big hits on it, and I'm going, oh shit, I'm next in line. So I ended up on a label called Voss, VOSS.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, and we did. I had one vocal on my first record, which it was a cover of Respect, and we filmed all over Bali, but we filmed with these things that they call the monkey chanters, and these like maybe 100 people get together and emulate the sound of the monkeys in the trees, but the percussion, how they break it all up is, man, anybody interested, get your Google finger after this and check out the monkey chanters.
That's cool.
And my film for Respect, I just put that up on my channel a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
I got to check that out too. Somebody's asking if you live in LA. You live Pacific Northwest, right? I think you.
Yeah, I escaped LA 16 years ago. I was there for 20 years, and I think it was about 19 too many.
I still love it, but I get it. I do.
I mean, I was glad I was there, and I definitely wouldn't have got the Michael Jackson gig if I hadn't been there.
That's what I was going to ask you next, was about the balance of work and the opportunities, and if you felt like that was a trade-off moving away or not.
Not after I moved away, no. Because at that point, I mean, 16 years ago, I had the connections that I have and the internet, and anybody can contact anybody. So that's why I moved. I was flying back from somewhere just totally beat up, and, you know, just 2-hour drive and nasty traffic to get home in a taxi. And it just hit me all of a sudden. It's like, I don't have to be here, because 95% of my work was in other countries, and all I needed was an airport. And the Portland, LA has like 20 million people, and Portland has 2.
Right.
So it's much friendlier. It's not so much dog eat dog and elbowing for position. And I made friends instantly. And it's kind of funny because my sister told me how friendly people were, and it's true. And you just open up and talk to anybody on the street in LA. They're thinking like, what do you want from me? Why are you talking to me? Like that. And I mean, even I looked forward to going to the post office because there was this guy that was just a crack up behind the counter, was always making jokes, and I almost wanted to mail letters to myself just to see him. And and then I hadn't gone to LA for 2 years, and I went to a NAMM show, and I remember renting a car, and I took the car back, and I started joking with the guy behind the counter because that's who I am now, right? The guy's like, nothing. Nobody home. Do not communicate with me. And I go, thanks for the reminder.
Right.
That's just my experience. I'm just very glad to be in the Northwest.
I love it up there, and I'm a Portlandia fan. So if that's anything like Portland, I love that show so much. So great. Portland,
where young people come to retire.
That's good. Let's see. Burgatron is up there in the super chat. He says, Jennifer, are you surprised that more guitar players don't mess around with combining keyboard and guitar sounds with something like the triple play? I did a video on the triple play, and I had fun with that thing. The whole, MIDI. I'm kind of not really and I've got one guitar set up with it, and I haven't done a lot more of it. I found it, the only thing about it, the triple play, was it was difficult to get the sample libraries installed and all that, a little tweaky getting the thing to talk to my computer. But once I did, God, it was like, holy shit, like this is endless possibilities.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot more people that are intimidated by tech than are not. And the whole idea of having to use your laptop or take a laptop to the gig, now they have a plug-in version that's not wireless, that's designed to go with the iPad. So that should be a little easier for folks.
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of education. People just are not aware how easy it is now and how much access you have. I mean, you could even choose a drum kit and program drums by playing notes on your guitar. And you could actually divide it into 4 quadrants. So say you got drums on the G, B, E strings up to maybe the 7th fret, and then bass on the lower strings up to the 7th fret or whatever fret you choose. And then you got 2 more quadrants, you can have different sounds. So
Wow.
for writing, it's like instant inspiration. Bam, I'll put down a drum groove, bam, put down a bass, and just experiment with the other keyboard sounds.
That's so cool.
And having said that, though, before I was in Jeff's band, I'd gotten one of the Roland units, and I never read the manual. I just goofed and got some sounds and put some stuff on my record. But it wasn't until I had that gig where I go, oh, shit's getting real now.
Right.
I really did a deep dive into programming back then, and it was way harder, man. If you wanted to combine 2 different sounds, I had one JV 1080 rack for one sound and another one for the other sound, and then you had to program each string. And if you didn't like the combination, you start over, and it was just a whole lot of work, and the triggering was not great.
Yeah.
For the most part, I played pads with Jeff, fortunately, because the delay, the few times I had to play, I never soloed, but there were, single line stuff. Like in Savoy, there's a trumpet kind of thing, trumpet chordal passage. I had to be so on top of the beat. It was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But now you can solo. There's some great sounds with the triple play, and you can break out the Jan Hammer kind of Moog sound or a flute, or it's pretty inspiring.
It's fun stuff. I remember doing when I first auditioned for Don Henley, I had to learn the song Sunset Grill, and it's got this solo on it that's actually guitar synth. And it was, so this would have been done in 83 or 82 when it was originally recorded. So it's probably one of the original Rolands. I think it was Joe Walsh that played the guitar synth solo on that song, but it's got such this unique feel because first of all, it's Joe Walsh, but then the latency of the synth. Yeah. And so I put a sound together to try and, not on synth, but I came up with a flanger and like some ways to kind of try and duplicate the sound, neck pickup with the tone rolled off and all this stuff. Cause it kind of sounds like a synth horn or something. And to learn that phrasing with all that latency was really, I remember practicing the hell out of that solo, like try and get the feel right. Cause he wants
to such a great record with Danny Korchmar.
Yeah, man,
that is some Zen guitar on that is just so perfect and so simple.
Yeah, exactly. And Mike Campbell's contributions to when he was working with him and stuff, he always had great, some of the coolest guitar parts for sure. Dan of New Jersey is asking if you can talk a little bit about touring with Michael Jackson. I'm always
paid vacation, man.
Yeah.
We were talking about earlier, we were talking about playing in a cover band. And really, playing with Michael Jackson was playing in a cover band, except all the hits were by the same guy. So
and he's standing over there too. It's like I'm in a cover band, but there's the guy. It's the real guy. That's what I always say. Like touring as a sideman is being in the band with just the real guy singing. That's all.
Yeah,
being in a cover band.
A little different feel than showing up for work at the Red Lion.
Catering's better.
Yeah, it was. Oh God, it was so exciting. Unbelievable to just get launched from. At that time I was in 5 different bands doing the showcase thing on Sunset Strip, and 3 bands a night, and unless you had your own crowd there, people were waiting for the next band kind of thing, and trying to get your gear back into your car without having it stolen while you walk 12 feet to your car. That was a hell of a launch.
Was it an audition?
Yeah, there was about 100 people that auditioned, and one of his guys called GIT, well, Musicians Institute at that time. They had a referral service, and I was one of the lucky people that got a call to audition. And I asked, what I should know, and the guy told me some tunes. And I asked pretty much when's the last possible time to audition, so I could just stay home and just get the repetitions in and know this stuff like the back of my hand. Yeah. And it was, I don't know, 2 or 3 days later, I went in, and it wasn't like a cattle call where everybody's watching everybody play. We all had our slots.
Okay.
And I went in, and at that time, thankfully, because Van Halen was so huge in 1987. You know, every band on Sunset had a solo spot for the guitarist to go off, right? And I was in 5 bands, so I had that, and it was comfortable. When I went in, there was no band. It was just me and a video camera, and actually the keyboard player was there, not Greg Fillingham, it's Rory Kaplan, but he didn't play. So the only guidance I was given was to play something funky, because that would be 95% of the gig. So I played some funky stuff I had been showing GIT students at that time. And I also remember I played, I think, I can't remember the Jeff Beck song. Something off of Blow by Blow.
Okay.
A little bit of that groove. And then I just started soloing. And I was working on a demo from my first record, and I had worked out a tapping solo for Giant Steps. So I played that. And I ended with the Beat It solo because I had been playing that in a cover band. I learned that like in 1984. And I thought he might find that useful. And that bought me a house.
I love it. But that's great. Did you get a call back like right away? Got it.
I think it might have been 2 days later. So the guy was videoing it. Actually, the hardest part of the audition was at the end of my playing, the guy goes, okay, now he wants to get an idea of your personality. So go. I'm like, what the fuck do you say? It's like, well, my name is Jennifer. I'm a Sagittarius and I like furry animals.
Amazing.
I mean, it's really intimidating. Like,
yeah, you don't want to say the wrong thing. It could be easy. You never know, right? What to say. It's like, God. Yeah. That's wild. Yeah. Video is crazy. I've done a few of those where only video, and it's just like, all right. Like you just get, it's like, I don't know. I guess actors deal with it all the time, but
yeah.
Not used to
Yeah, it's a lot to ask of us guitar nerds. But anyway, it worked.
Sure did. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So and how long was your stint with him? It was at least a few years, right?
10 years.
It was 10 years. Wow.
It was all of his solo tours. So the first one was Bad. That launched in the fall of 1987. Started off in Japan. That tour was a year and a half. That was a long chunk of time. And when it was over, I just wanted to cry, man. I'm going, oh God, nobody's gonna come in my room and make my bed in the morning anymore. Nobody's gonna bring me food to the door.
I gotta pay for water, like water bottle. I gotta pay for what? Like it's weird, right? Get off the road.
I have to change my own strings. Oh my God, the humanity.
Oh wow, I didn't realize it was 10 years. Wow, that's amazing. That's like job security. That's incredible. That's
well, I didn't know I had it though. I didn't know from tour to tour that I would get called again. I never even thought of it. I thought he'd probably get new people every time. And I'll tell you, when I did take it for granted is when I shouldn't have. Is I had flown to England and I had a really long layover and I was hanging out at Heathrow waiting for another plane. And that's when he got on TV and announced that This Is It tour dates. And I immediately thought, cha-ching.
Right.
You know, but he ended up wanted a younger woman. God damn it! So he ended up with Orianthi for that, which was fine. It was really cool to pass the baton at that point, and all the dancers were much younger than the originals as well, so that was fine. But yeah, 10 years. It was a good chunk of time, and bought me a lot of studio gear and a house, and
yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, I know what you mean, like tour to tour. It's always like, is this going to continue? And then it does, hopefully. And then when it can, it's like, because it's happened to me where it's like, oh, I think this is over. Oh, and then it's a little heartbreaking. It's like a relationship ending or something that,
the very end of it sucked because on the history tour, I could probably Google what happened, but that was before you had high-speed internet, really. So we were supposed to play Istanbul and then Greece. We were supposed to go Istanbul, Athens, and then end of tour. And we got to Istanbul, and as far as I remember, we Americans accidentally sunk one of the Turkish ships. Whoops. Okay. And there was people in the hospital in Izmir, and it was a bad scene. And next thing we know, Michael Jackson is in London, throat problems. He's seeing a doctor in London, and the word on the street is the gig is going to be postponed a few days. And then that was the end of it. That was the end of the whole tour. I assume they might have been afraid because it's a little risky in that part of the world. You never know what's going to go down. You know, all of a sudden it's super anti-American. Then we could have all been in big trouble. And they found the quickest flights and just sent us all off on these different flights, and that was it. No end of the tour party, no nothing. That was just see ya.
Ended in a very strange way. Yeah. It's strange because you want to prepare mentally for the last gig and stuff, and it doesn't always happen. I played with an artist over in France a few years ago, and that actually he became ill at the end of the last tour. And so we never really, like, the last two shows ended up getting canceled. And it was really weird because it was touch and go whether or not he was going to make it. So they had to go to the venues because of insurance and stuff and set up all the gear, and we were ready to go. And then, nope, it's not going to happen. We went to the next city, did the same thing, set up all the stuff, did sound check. Yeah, did sound check. And it was like, that was going to be the last show of the tour and stuff. And then, nope, not going to happen. So it was this really anticlimactic, like, end of a, you know, I didn't really get to say goodbye to the guy. He's a great guy. This guy, Michel Polnareff, terrific artist. And it just was a strange way to end the tour. But
it reminds me of, oh, Jesus, dog, don't get under the wheels. Elvis, he's pretty codependent. I got him when I was working for Cirque in Las Vegas. So he had to be Elvis, right?
Right.
Oh, so when Princess Di died, I got a call that woke me up in my hotel room about 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was a journalist saying, so is Michael going to do the show tonight? And I didn't know anything about the news. And I go, well, yeah, I think it was in Belgium. And I said, why wouldn't we? So then he said it's because Princess Di died, and apparently Michael was close to her or something. And I said, of course we're going to play. Well, we drove for at least an hour to go to the gig because the same thing. For the insurance, you got to set up as if you're going to go, and then I'm sick. Right. But the funniest part of that tragedy was Jonathan Moffat, the Sugarfoot, the drummer. As soon as we got news that the gig wasn't going to happen, he heads straight for the candy bowl. It's like anxiety. Switch gears.
See what your weakness is now. Yeah. Candy.
That's the funniest reaction ever. Tootsie Rolls will fix it.
Yeah. It was really weird the night that we were playing the Olympia in Paris, and it was like I had gone and done an interview with so I'd done sound check, and I had an interview with a guitar magazine, French guitar magazine. Went and sat down at catering, and it was a 20-minute interview or something. Sat down at catering, I started eating my food. Somebody came by, said, so the van's coming to pick you guys up in 20 minutes. And I was like, yeah, funny, like, because we got a show, and it was like, no, it's really like the gig's off. And it was like, what? Like, we were at that point, it wasn't like we didn't know anything about him being sick or anything, but it was weird. It was like, oh, and no, yeah, it's a different night. I was thinking of another time we played the Olympia. It was actually that was a different time or earlier in the tour. But there was actually one night where we played in Paris, and then we were on our way back to the hotel, and the awful attack had happened down in Nice. And it was like we heard about that in the van on the way from the gig. So that was a weird thing that happened over there. But it's a few traumatic things that happened during that tour. But generally, it was a really great tour.
I tell you what, the night I was supposed to meet Jeff Beck got canceled. Talk about trauma.
The gig got canceled?
Yeah. Two opening acts went on. Okay. During the Bad Tour, Rory Kaplan was one of the keyboard players, and he knew I was crazy about Jeff. And he goes, he used to tech for him when he was out with Jan. And he said, I'll hook you guys up. And the bastard didn't do it. So Dangerous Tour comes along. I go, I know we're going to England, and I know Jeff is on that island somewhere. I must connect. So every country we went to, I talked to the Sony reps after the show. Does anybody know Jeff? Anybody know how to get a hold of Jeff? Somebody came through and got him VIP tickets to the show at Wembley. And two opening acts went on, Kim Wilde and Chris Cross or something. And then it was announced Michael's sick. Show's canceled. And I was devastated. I thought, oh, hell no. So they scoot the band off in a bus, and they close the curtain so nobody can see it's the band all made up and everything. I wasn't going to leave because I thought Jeff was in the VIP tent. So all these crying kids and pissed off people are coming out by the droves this way, and I'm coming across them with my hair up to here thinking,
like,
I'm not going to meet Jeff, right?
Yeah, I'm meeting Jeff. It's going to happen.
You can try to kill me. It ain't my fault. But and it turns out he had been turned away at the gate because he came late and only wanted to see Michael, and so that was the end of it. So I called him up the next day and said, I don't know when or if they're going to make up the show, but can I meet you anyway? And he was recording his rockabilly record at the time at a studio and invited me down. And so I went down, and thank God I had two friends with me because, I knew his music like the back of my hand, but I didn't know him as a person. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what the hell to say to him. I remember the very first thing, I go in the studio, and it's way before smartphones. I had one of these old school big ass video cameras, and I thought, man, I'm going to capture this. I asked him to play Blue Wind, and he goes, ding, 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 dead battery. Fuck. So I was smart enough to bring another battery. I put the other battery in, asked him to play something else. Dead battery. They're both dead. So I got 5 seconds of each thing, but I learned a lot in that 5 seconds. It was incredible because something I had been playing, I missed one of the things that he was doing, one of the nuances. And I go, oh, well, that just opened up a whole new world. So anyway, that was the connection. I'm super motor mouthing. I should let you talk.
No, I love it. I love it. We're both. This is what we do: drink coffee and just go. Talk. You're making me think about the time. Okay, so I got to tell a funny story about Jeff Beck because I was supposed. I didn't know if I was going to meet him, but I thought if it's ever going to happen, it might be tonight. And this is a true story. I was talking with Eddie Van Halen, and it was back in 2010, and Eddie just kind of offhand said, "Are you going to see Jeff Beck?" And because he was playing in LA at the Nokia, and I was like, "No," and he was like, "Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Eddie Van Halen's asking if you want to see Jeff Beck." Are you like kidding? And he's like, "Yeah," because he was talking with Dweezil or something at the time, or Dweezil was there, or they were on, I don't know what, and Dweezil was opening, so Zappa Plays Zappa was opening and so he spoke to Dweezil, and he got me a ticket. So Eddie Van Halen got me a ticket to go see Jeff Beck through Dweezil. And I was like, and he said, "Yeah, you're gonna." What's that?
Mic drop.
Yeah, I don't even know what. I was like, I was like, is this really happening? Like, this is amazing.
Great.
He's such a sweet dude, honestly, and that is something that he would do. So that ends up happening, and he says, "Yeah, you'll sit with Janie and me. It'll be great. We'll go see the show or whatever." And I was like, I can't. Fuck, are you kidding? Is this some sort of alternate reality? Well, so I got there, and I thought if I'm ever going to meet Jeff Beck, it's probably going to be because like I'm there, and like, well, that might happen because it's Eddie Van Halen after or whatever. And I thought this is unbelievable. But I got there, and he ended up like leaving early or not going or something. So I had the seat. I went, and I got the ticket and everything. Went and sat, but there was like nobody sitting beside me, and I was like, and I can't remember what happened. I talked to him afterwards. He said, "Oh, something came up," and sorry, I couldn't, and so it didn't end up quite panning out. But he did get me the ticket to go see Jeff Beck 2010, and it was a great show. So,
wow,
yeah, through Dweezil, so it was amazing. But
I went to see him after I wasn't in the band. He did a tour with Jan Hammer, and he hadn't played with him for like 25 years. He did a tour of England, and I go, I am not going to miss this because this is like a shooting star. This might not ever happen again because Jan is kind of holed up in his studio in New York. And man, I'm so glad I went. I saw 3 or 4 shows, and the two of them soloing is like the epitome of improv.
Yeah.
Oh, the conversations back and forth were like, oh my God, it doesn't get better than this.
Yeah, every time I've seen him, it just blows my mind. I mean, I remember one show in particular at the House of Blues in LA, where I was standing with some really good guitar players, and it was like Lyle Workman and Brian Ray from Paul McCartney's band, and we were all standing there watching him, and he was playing, I think he was doing Over the Rainbow, his version of Over the Rainbow,
Yeah.
And we were just like everybody's jaws were on the floor in that place. And I remember looking at Lyle and saying, he's the greatest guitar player in the world. And Lyle was like, absolutely. There's no contest, It was unbelievable. But
You know, you're talking about a real sensitive tune like Over the Rainbow.
Yeah.
I played, you know, Where Were You? The one he played melody with harmonics. Da, 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 da. Anyway, it's a gorgeous song that's just done as a duo. And so I would do synth pads behind him. And we had the show in Brazil. And it's fairly common that he breaks strings and his techs are just on it, out with a new guitar, and you don't miss a bar, right? So he brings a new guitar, and the new guitar has something wrong with the jack. And so it's meh, meh. He got so pissed off because he was in the zone and it destroyed his zone. I was on stage with Jeff Beck when he smashed a fucking guitar into the stage.
That's
I'm sitting there holding a pad like, okay, are they going to bring a third guitar out? And then
what happens
off the
next?
stage. I go, I guess this is over. I guess I'll follow him backstage.
Wow.
You know, it was kind of horrifying at the time, but it's one of those moments that's so rock and roll. I'll take it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And you'll always remember that.
Oh, that is burned into the gray matter forever.
I was going to ask you actually, because somebody was asking a question. They said they saw you at Wembley with Michael Jackson, and maybe I can't remember. I'm going through the chat here. I'm never going to find there, but it was 90. No, I'm not going to remember. But anyway, they saw you at Wembley, and I was going to ask you, do you have like specific? Do you ever see videos of yourself playing gigs back then? Going, I don't really have a specific memory of this show. Like, do you remember gigs? Like, oh yeah, I remember that one and that one and that one. Because I have these specific memories of the tours I've done of maybe a few gigs. But when I think about like with Chris Cornell, we did 300 shows. 300 plus shows.
Wow,
it doesn't feel like it. Like I don't remember. You know, I can remember spots like here and there, but it's weird when I see videos sometimes on YouTube now, and I'm like, I don't remember this gig. Like that's me, but I don't.
Yeah, it feels like another universe.
Yeah.
Parallel universe.
It's a strange thing. Let's see here. Lauren says he saw Jeff Beck at Hollywood Bowl on his 50 years of Jeff Beck tour. Last time I saw him was at Hollywood Bowl, actually, and it was awesome in 2015, I think. So in that summer, Hollywood Bowl was terrific. Remember, actually, it was great because you could bring wine in. It was like it was like the summer concert series or whatever at Hollywood Bowl, and it was like a certain license or something, so you could bring your own. And I remember the person I was with saying, "Yeah, we can bring wine." And I was like, "You sure? Like we're not gonna get like turned away at the gate if we show up with a backpack full of wine." Right. And they're like, no, it's cool. And sure enough, and sat there, and it's something about it when you can just bring your own glasses and stuff. It's like a picnic, and you're watching Jeff Beck. I don't know, it was awesome. It was good. Let's see here. I'm gonna find some more questions here. Little lull. Talk amongst yourselves for a moment while I read through the chat. Okay, this is a good question actually. From Alex. This would be something I would wonder too. Like, how much interaction with somebody like Michael, who was famously private, did you have on a personal level? Like, was he? Did that ever happen much? Or
well, first I'll say that the entourage was 100 people. The most interaction I had with him was during the band rehearsals because he worked like a beast. I mean, that was like joining the army. That's all you do. I hired a friend to drive my dog to San Diego to live with my parents because I just wasn't home. It was just nonstop. I think 7 days a week, the last month of it. So during breaks, we could hang out with him. But honestly, it was a little awkward. Partly because he was so famous and I didn't know that much about him. We would make some small talk. I remember one conversation in particular where he came over to a group of us. I was with John Clark, the other guitar player, and there was at least one or two other people. And he was dying to know who had not been to Europe before. And neither John or I had. And he was really delighted because he goes, man, I've been there so many times. I feel like an old man. And he was 29.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he started when he was 5. Just
wow. 29. That's incredible to think about it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was probably just happy that you guys were experiencing it. Like and excited for you. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
He loved surprises. So we signed NDAs so we wouldn't tell anybody or tell the press, especially what was going to happen in the tour, all the special effects and stuff. It's like he really wanted that to be hush hush until opening night, so everybody could be surprised.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big deal. I toured with the French pop artist named Mylène Farmer. She's kind of like the Madonna of France or something, and it's similar where it's like the outside of Bercy, and I mean we did. People probably aren't going to know her outside of France, but she'll do like 11 nights at Bercy, the arena in Paris. You know, like it's that kind of gig where it's just, and it's this huge spectacle, and it was very similar. We put a lot of money into production, and it's an unbelievable show. And the people literally camp outside for a week before the first game because they're just so stoked to see. They come inside and they come stream. I'm not even making this up, but they let the doors open and people come streaming in, and they've got baguettes. They've got their baguettes and they run to the front of the stage and they go up to the general admission and they're ready with their bread. It sounds like a stereotype. I'm not making it up. I've got videos of it.
Oh, I got one for you. In Holland, I did gosh, I think this was back in the Ibanez days. I was touring Holland with the Rep, and we ended up having dinner. I think he had a music shop, and his house was above it. And it was one of my first times to Holland. And I go, so is it all about wooden clogs and cheese? And he goes, no, we don't wear those anymore. And we eat everything. Guess what was outside of his door? Clogs. That's what we have for dinner.
I love
cheese.
That's amazing. God, I love that country so much. That is my favorite country in Europe. I mean,
is it?
Oh my God. I mean, when I got outside of, because, you know, I'd been there a bunch of times, gone to Amsterdam and maybe Groningen was the other city I'd been to, but nowhere else. And then on my clinic tour last year, I visited this unbelievable music store that you got to check out sometime. It's called the Fellowship of Acoustics. And it's in a small town just outside of Zwolle, which is like the third biggest city there, or something like that. And this beautiful setting. It's like it's in a building that's like 150 years old or something. That was a city government office, but it looks like a big old house. And it's a music store now, a guitar shop. And so all the rooms are with great big high ceilings and beautiful windows, and they're all guitars all over the walls. And they have a great concert theater there, and like a kind of a little venue and stuff where I did my clinic. And then they took me out for dinner afterwards, which was all like in typically, you know, like when you go to Denmark and Holland, it's all like the, you know, foraging and stuff like that for the food. You know, it's like there's unbelievable chefs there, incredible. So they took me to this restaurant that was like where the guy had like, oh yeah, these are flowers from my garden on your salad. It was this unbelievable experience. But then I hung out the next day, and how typical was this? Like they put me up in a hotel just outside Zwolle, and it was like, you know, the why am I so silly right now? I can't think of the windmill. Yeah. And so a beautiful windmill right outside my hotel beside a river, you know, and then just this to get out of Amsterdam and experience that country, because Amsterdam's kind of like, it's sort of like going to New York. I mean, it's a beautiful place, you know, it's a little bit like going to Toronto or New York or London. It's like, it's not, you know, once you get out into the smaller cities and stuff, it can be really interesting, I find, when I'm traveling. But yeah, I loved Zwolle and loved kind of the countryside and stuff in Netherlands. I don't know, just an unbelievable place.
Well, there's something so magical about Europe, all over Europe, for us North Americans. You know, we see a picture of the Colosseum in a book that's like this in black and white, and you got to learn about it for history class, but to actually be walking through it is mind-blowing.
Yep.
In fact, when we did it on the Bad Tour, a bunch of us had gone to Toys R Us in Wales and gotten these blow-up Gumbies. So we blew them up, and we were sending them out the windows of the Coliseum and filming each other below. The early Americans.
All those years ago when they were like, you know, having to, you know, people were fighting lions there and stuff. Do you think they would have thought like there's going to be blow-up Gumbies?
The fall of Western civilization, for sure. That's
awesome. Oh man, yeah, Italy's something else. It's a land of extremes. I love it there. I remember last fall also going to Pompeii actually, and that was really unbelievable. I mean, to see, you know, and then the next day going to Amalfi Coast to Positano and stuff, which is like probably the most beautiful place I've ever been. It's just like, I don't know, Italy's incredible. But yeah, travel, man. The guitar, it takes us some. Isn't it crazy? Some of the places, like you think this piece of wood with like 6 pieces of metal stretched across, it's taken me a lot of places. It's pretty.
Yeah. The things we have seen over the years.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. We've gone about, what time is it? It's 12. It's almost 1. So you've been here for an hour and a half. But so you tell me how you're feeling.
Yeah, I think I'll jet out. That
Okay.
went really fast. It was super fun. I'm glad you had me on. It was fun to catch up.
Really amazing to have you. And it's just like, this is the most we've talked in like 20 years. So I mean, it's really incredible. We run into each other at NAMM and stuff sometimes, but
shouting.
Yeah, shouting.
I said.
Totally.
Like somebody blasting your ear, and the noise police are coming along, and
yeah,
God,
that whole environment. I love it. And I mean, it's stressful, but I've decided that Josh Smith, friend of mine, amazing guitar player, he turned my mind around on that, because it's in LA. It's kind of the cool thing to go like, oh, NAMM, are you going to NAMM, and like sort of diss it or something, like,
yeah,
oh, I'm not going down there. And Josh was like, hey man, it's full of guitars. All my friends are there. I love it. I go all 4 days. And I was
really?
like,
wow.
That's true. It's overwhelming, and it can be like a bit much sometimes, but it's like I always see somebody I haven't seen in 20 years or 15 years there or something. And, you know, it's that, and it's full of guitars. So I have a good time.
I went for 20 years in a row, man. When I was at GIT, God, at least 15 of us went, and one of the students had this old rickety ass bus that should have been condemned, where you could see the freeway in a hole in the bottom. You know? Yeah. And we all went, and we're just a bunch of punk ass kids with no money going in the NAMM show, looking at gear and putting our sweaty hands on the guitars. Right. And next year they changed the rules, and I think it was because of us. So then they start lying and making up these business cards. I'm Jennifer Batten from a very important, you know, music shop. It was total bullshit. And then they got hip to that. So it's just been, sorry, people that are trying to get in now, it's because of us that you can't. Anyway, I won't keep blabbing. Thanks so much, Pete. I'll keep in touch.
Terrific to have you here. I'll say bye to everybody. I'm going to jet too, and then just hang on for 1 second, then we'll. All right, everybody, take care, and we'll see you next week for another Sunday Live.